Hey everyone, welcome to another sketch stretch. I'm your host, Rachel Copera, your teacher. We're finding beauty in 3D objects on this playlist series. Super cool. I'm going to draw my Airpods because they're important to me. And I'm going to start out by doing the outline, but I'm also going to do the inside because you should draw the inside of an object to make it look 3D. Then I'm going to go back. I'm going to take the time to carve both. You're going to see me do a lot of adjustments, a lot of adding and a lot of taking away because that's kind of the key to drawing. I'm going to curve up, curve down, curve to the side, curve around, add all sorts of shading techniques. Take my time to put in that case and get the outline right. Curve up, curve down, add hatching. Add lines to show how 3D the object is, to show the directions of the different shapes and the curves. I'll stop. I'll bring down the background. Why? Because then that helps us make strong judgments about value. Also helps the form come out and helps me to make it look more 3D. As I carve in space, I will add in shadows and I will talk about taking away and erasing. I'll even add out in some whiteout to add in some highlights. I'm going to go ahead and shade the label. I have a sticker on my Airpods. I will add in some shadows with my markers. Grays, light grays, dark grays, even some blues. And then I'll go ahead and I'll put in details with pen. Ever so slight, but that will clarify the edges, make the edges smooth, add in some hard boundary. Also add in some pencil on top as I have a slow transition from light to dark. And I keep shading and I keep adding in. I will dance around and I will continue to add pen work. So a lot of going back and forth. I make an adjustment right there, change the shape, and then really add in those details with that pen work. So make sure you have your pen nearby and showing the edges. So really helping the viewer to understand where the AirPod ends and begins, how it's shaped, and really smoothing and cleaning things up. You could watch this video as many times as you want. You could add in highlights.
Hey guys,
and good luck.
welcome to another sketch stretch. Before we get going, I want to go ahead and, as a warm-up, I want everyone to go ahead and just practice drawing kind of the shape of an AirPod. Now, when starting to draw an AirPod, I would think of the front as kind of an oval. So you're kind of going down with the ellipses. Okay, and then you're kind of curving up. Notice how light I am with my lines. Curving down. Now this is the key. 2 parallel lines. Okay, so like ask yourself, are the lines parallel? Well, this line, I'm trying to go to a different color so you could see. This line and this line, they never meet, right? So they keep going. So you kind of have an oval and then you have 2 lines. Then you come back in, I'm kind of picking different colors on purpose, and you connect with sort of a swooping down motion. And then things kind of shave away at the side. So you're kind of shaving away that oval. So I go in and I sort of erase. I need a bigger thing to kind of, right? And you go in with your eraser and you shade away. Now let's talk about the end. Let me get a different color, the blue. The end is gonna be curvy, right? So you're gonna have sort of that ellipses curve at the end. So let's go ahead, let's try that again. And I'll curve off the sides a little bit more, erasing the sides. Hope everyone's having a good day. Oh my gosh. I keep selecting the wrong tool, but that's okay. I'm not going to edit this video down because it takes time to go ahead and get the shape right. So let's try that again. So I started off with an oval. if you guys remember, because it was just seconds ago, right? And don't obsess about it being perfect. Now I'm going to do it at kind of a different angle now. Okay, I'm going to go in with those two parallel lines. Actually, I'm going to start with brown because that's what I did before. Now the AirPod is kind of going back. This line needs to be parallel. Okay, check. Is your line parallel? Okay, parallel again means that these lines would keep going in space, but they would never touch. Right, so they're kind of at the same angle. Now I'm going in with that green. I'm distracted because, and I'm shaving off the side a little, getting the angles right. Get your eraser and kind of smooth out the edges, take away. So it was an oval, but I'm kind of shaving off the side. Now I forgot. Remember the end, and you want to make sure it's long, right? It's long enough in relationship to what you're seeing, but make sure the end's kind of curvy. And notice I accidentally went all the way around with the ellipses. That's fine if you do that, because you can always take it away. You could take away with your eraser. Okay, why are we stopping and why are we doing this? Because I don't want you guys to get frustrated when you're drawing. You're like, oh, I can't even get this shape right. Then you could go in and you could carve in and you could add more details. So you're actually kind of like changing the shape of the oval a little to kind of reflect what it is that you're seeing. This kind of goes in a little, and you keep making adjustments. And you'll see me using the actual supplies right now. But again, parallel, straight, parallel, straight. Okay, guys, good luck. I just want you to post an outline of these shapes to Seesaw so I know you're there, and we'll keep going with the tutorial. Whoa, what just happened?
Good morning, everyone. We're drawing Airpods today against a blue background. Why a blue background, you may ask? So they pop out so we can see them. So think about your setup whenever you're drawing any sort of object. Ask yourself, are you seeing all of the details? And make adjustments. We're gonna go ahead, you'll make adjustments, you'll erase, you'll make changes. So that's something to go ahead and think about. And I am moving it around, the AirPods, on purpose. It's all part of the plan because I'm making adjustments and I want to have a nice angle. So notice how when you're approaching drawing any sort of object, you want to go real light at first. And you want to organize your setup for your still life. And that means making adjustments. And I think I just drew the top of the case. Now I'm drawing the curve of the AirPod. And you'd think an AirPod would be easy to draw. No, it's actually super hard because there are little curves here and there. And so what you do is you use line to kind of carve out the outside of the line. And go ahead and get that done. So just some different things to think about. And it takes time. And I felt like with this drawing, I was doing the most sculpting and most adjustments. Okay, 2 parallel lines right there. And using the ellipses for the curve of the AirPod. Let's see if I have my AirPods with me. I do. So that's great. So now I'm drawing the line that kind of goes up. Now I know what you're thinking. It's like, well, they're all white. Why are you shading it black? Right? But even on the AirPod, there are little grays. And you can see there's a line kind of going up and curving up. So by drawing lines on the inside of the form, I'm making it curvy. And there are all these different sorts of details and different kinds of shapes, right? So I'm drawing this curve that's kind of going up and going around. AirPods are important to me. We're drawing really important objects in this series. Okay, now I'm really darkening the outside of the AirPod, and I'm kind of creating a hard boundary. And really like outlining the outline and adding more curves. So now it's starting to get a little smeary as I add in all my curves, all my lines, all my curved hatches. A couple of things to point out. When I first started, I did a big circle to kind of get that shape. So now I'm doing the other one, and you want to make sure you're going lighter if something is farther away. You want to give it less shading because that gives the impression that it's farther away. Now you can pause, go back and replay the video and think like, do I have the proportions right? But you know, you kind of are doing a curve and then just sort of a line, two straight lines across when you're doing the AirPod. So I know it went fast. That's why we do the video, so you could pause. So a curve, notice first I drew the bulb, and now I'm looking closely at that angle and I'm going straight back. So there's a contrast between the curviness of the pod and then this straight line that goes back. And then obviously you use the ellipses to get this curvy tip. And then I'm curving kind of in, then I'm carving inwards, and I'm getting that shape. It's a complicated shape, right? But it's kind of fun to get right. And by putting this little black thing in, you know, I'm kind of like, then I'm like, oh, okay. Then I'm noticing details like how thin the white space is around. Now I'm putting in little stipples. Stipples where I see the like little bits of the speaker, right? So in this series, we're finding so many details in like these simple little objects like ... And I'm really zoomed in close, and I'm really going in and I'm erasing a lot. I just noticed there's a wine box behind. It's like, those are glasses, and those aren't like anything that's happening now, or that those have been here forever. So no judge. I'm back home in LA and starting a new setup downstairs. Okay, so really darkening the edge of the hard boundary on the outside of this area, and then putting in now this detail. So it's going fast. So feel free to rewind, but really making it clear when this edge is there. So remember, notice how you start out light with line. Think about that. You always want to start out light and then really clarify the edges and darken the edges. Okay, going ahead and erasing, making changes. And you can draw with your eraser. I've said that in previous videos. Like, remember, taking away is drawing too. And notice all those little lines that are trying to tell the story. There's so many different curves in an AirPod, right? It goes down, it goes around. You could do a little ellipses on the side here, right? And you could draw. I recommend, if you're getting really frustrated now, stop, go back, replay, and draw them bigger. Because I'm drawing them kind of small here. I think if I were to do it again, I would draw it bigger. Okay, really smoothing out that line. And now I'm going in and I'm really carving in some details. And I want it to be clear that those AirPods are behind. Now I'm adding the stipples right there, going up. Now I'm adding those lines, those hatches that curve up. I'm showing how the AirPod curves up right there and curves around. So AirPod's gray, you know, it's gray. Yes, it's white, but you see shadows. Okay, but it's white, so that's why I'm taking away with the eraser. That's why it creates a great drawing problem. And I'm also taking away now the space around, just making sure I have the shape right. Right, and those little relationships right in the middle are important. Kind of curving up. Sorry, I'm eating. You guys are listening to this on your earphones. You're probably like, ew. I'll stop eating. In order to get anything done during the pandemic, if you're a parent, you have to wake up early. So that requires eating breakfast while you're doing work. Curving around the side. I added ellipses to show the curve of the AirPod. Right? Now I'm adding in a cast shadow. So there's actually, the first AirPod is putting a shadow on the second one. And that requires with looking real closely. So you're just kind of meditating on your object and you're asking yourself, where are there shadows? And I'm making adjustments now. I'm going into the AirPod and I'm pulling away. And I'm really pulling away on that AirPod because there's a lot of highlight. I'm adding a bunch of curves in. And I mean, to sit and draw anything, especially Apple products, is a challenge because they have details. Now, I'm telling my students not to draw their phones because it's a little too flat. But an AirPod is an interesting form. It is weird looking. It's totally 3D and it sits in a weird way. So obviously you would have this heavy part sitting down, but how do you capture this curved area going up? You know, it's interesting. It's hard. Okay, now I'm trying to get the shape of the case right. So the case, do I have the case? The case is curvy. The case is a form. It's a 3D form. And you'd think it was a box. No, it's got these curves. So you have two parallel lines. Talked about parallel a lot in Unit 1. Right? So these lines got to be at the same angles. Same thing with you're drawing the AirPod. These two lines, when you're drawing they have to be the same. They're straight and they keep going. They don't intersect. Okay, now this is hard. Technically I could use perspective here, but I'm not. I'm kind of eyeballing the whole thing. And to show that the AirPod case is going far away, you know, these lines are slowly getting together like it would be going towards a vanishing point. Now notice how I'm curving the edges. Notice how I'm making so many adjustments. So I did a box on the top, right? And all of those lines are parallel, meaning they keep going straight. Okay, going ahead, I'm curving the side. Adding in some hatching. Adding in some adjustments. Okay, curving the bottom, right? There's a shadow here. You don't want to just shade. Like I usually see students just shade and blend, but your shading can help us to understand how the object is curved. So by adding curved hatches, it feels like it's kind of curving up. So that's good. Okay, and notice how my lines are fast and quick. So they're going fast. And if you're stressed out, just try drawing the case. Okay, quick hatches on the top. So the fact that the lines, my shading goes all the way across, that's important. Now this is a handy, the fact that I have a sticker here is a handy reference point because these are 2 parallel lines. And it helps me to tell the story about how this is slowly getting smaller in the back because it's getting farther away. Okay, I'm adding in more curves to show that this AirPod case is curving around. Going back. Hope everyone's doing well. I hope everyone's staying safe. Okay, now this bottom line right there needs to be parallel with this line. So it's kind of like drawing a cube, a fancy curvy cube. Let's see if I can be in front of those weird glasses. Okay, kind of curving back. I'm making a lot of adjustments and I want my students to see that you need to like sit and you need to work at it. You need to stop, you need to look at your object, you need to go away. And hopefully we're going to get to drawing a still life, which would be so exciting. And this technically is a still life. You got 3 objects, 1, 2, 3 objects right there. And yeah, you could draw your AirPods, put it in the art show and have at it. So I'm making a little note to myself. Easter said them down. I don't know. I don't know what I wrote. Stop and write notes to yourself and thoughts because the most important things come to our minds. Okay. You pause the video, post what you have, but now I'm taking the time to go in with that marker and really shade the background. And I've been really emphasizing to my students to do that. Whatever still life you do for the art show, whatever sketch you enter, always give yourself the time to bring the background down because that can help you to figure out the values. I haven't talked about values that much in this drawing. This blue is kind of a middle gray. It's pretty dark. It's an intense blue. And I know it's not a gray, but it's like a middle value. Now I'm taking that pointy area and I'm going in and I'm carving around the details. Because that's really, really smooth details. That pointy area really comes in handy when you're trying to get the corner. And whoa. Okay, starting. 1450, 15. Going in, carving. Pointing area really coming in handy. And the broad tip of the marker can make a really smooth edge. So that is the most common things I'm seeing in my students' drawings is they aren't having these smooth boundaries with the markers. You want to have a smooth outline when you're drawing. So really like ask yourself, did I do a smooth outline on the outside? Going in, shading. Carving around the inside. Trying to get the angles right. And that's why we do so much pencil work, because we're like, okay, is it okay? Make adjustments, you take away, you erase. Start with a H pencil, if you have it. Contour. Use line to draw the inside of an object. Yes. So that is something that we don't understand. You draw the inside of an object too. You draw all of the curves. And this might take you guys several times to do because it's a hard drawing. It seems easy, but it's hard. So I'm going in, I'm carving the curves. Okay, And I'm going to look, when I look at Seesaw, I'm going to ask myself, okay, are they using lines inside to show the curves? And do you have really smooth edges on the end of it? Because if you have really like rough, like jaggedy edges, and your edges aren't clean when you're doing the background, because it's really the background color that's helping us to understand the shape of this. Like that's what's causing it to pop and go forward. So I'm going to say like smooth out your edges, because if anything's smooth, it's like an AirPod case. Yes, I think so. Okay, smoothing, smoothing. Ooh, it's getting crinkly. These markers, man. What are we going to do about these markers? Let me know if your markers are dying. I mean, it's a good sign if they're dying, because that means you're using them. Okay, I'm trying that 0 color. I figure it's for blending and smoothing things out. And I thought I would do on camera, trying to use it. I'm not too sure how happy I am with it. Okay, so I'm going in with the eraser and I'm drawing. So go in with your eraser and draw. Okay, going in, kind of shading. And I'm adding in a shadow. Okay, so that's a different color marker that I'm adding. And you can layer your markers on top of each other. So really take the time to smooth out your background. Okay, going in. Now I'm really cleaning up the top, because the top is light. I did all of that carving to help me understand the curve, but you don't have to keep all of your shading. You can take it away. And then that really goes, it really goes from a slow white to gray now, which is nice. And I can always add shading back in. But now that I have that middle gray background, that middle blue background, I can make stronger choices about value. Now notice how I'm not like over blending with my finger. My students do that a lot. They go in and they blend like crazy. Like, Wah! Going in, I'm adding shading. Really smoothing out the edges. Okay, looking good. So you guys got whiteout, yes? It's applied distribution. Some of you did. Look through your case. You can go in with whiteout and you can clean up some different areas. And that'll add a nice highlight. Maybe you made a mistake with your marker, but you know, do that when you have a plan and you're ready, because it takes a while for the whiteout to dry. But I wanted to have on camera that I was doing that. So I'm going in and I'm making it a little lighter. I'm adding some highlights. And yeah, I just added a little, right? Because the whiteout's all about details. You're not going to paint the whole thing. And I'm going in and with a dark value, I'm adding a cast shadow. Right, that's important. Okay, why? Because you're fighting with light. You're trying to tell the story of the object. And that is a really, really dark blue. And that shows that where the light is coming from. So your rubric for this project, this still life, is, are you showing where the light is coming from? And the best way to do that is to add the shadow. Now I'm going in and I'm going to work on this sticker. Now I know that green seems a little off, but again, you want to have several different values when you're approaching a certain color. Because when you see any color of anything, There are several colors. There's lights, there's mediums, there's darks. Okay, now I'm going in with gray. So, yes, there is some light gray in the Airpod, but make sure you test the gray first. Notice how I'm just going real fast. I'm not lingering. Test the gray first at the side, guys. Okay, now I'm going back. Yes, you do marker. You do line with your marker. And I'm using that little tip, that little edge, and I'm turning to the side. And I'm dancing all around. And what I'm adding is little reflected light. Well, this is reflected light. Little shadows. That's a CG2, just so you know. Everyone has different colors. Fix the camera, Rachel. Okay, there I go. Okay, and it's subtle, right? It's ever so subtle adding these shadows in because the object is white. So less is more. It's hard to take away. Now I see quite a big shadow on the side. So what I'm doing is I'm still using the CG2, but I switch. So I have the tip and I'm darkening the value a little bit lower down. And I'm adding a shadow. Now I'm adding a shadow on the paper. Okay, going back, and there's a ever small shadow on the paper. Okay, now I have that blue-gray. I really like it. And it's great for adding a little bit of light on objects. And you could argue that some of the light looks a little blue because it's on blue paper. But I'm taking the risk of adding a little stipples to the curve. So look closely. Even something that's white has shadows. And I'm adding little curves. If you're worried about messing something up, stop, take a picture of it. And then keep working at it. Keep working at your drawings. Okay, I'm going back in, adding more hatching, more curves, more shading, working to the side. I'm adding that blue in on the top. And I'm out of frame a little. Oh, now I'm going in with the gray. So I'm kind of like dusting the case, and I'm going kind of all over, showing the curves. Good, I zoomed out. But you could see I'm kind of like slowly going on top, and I'm showing that this is going farther back into space. Okay, so I'm working in pen now. Woo! So make sure you have your pen ready to go, and you're using your pen to define your hard boundaries. Yes. And going in and using your pen to define edges. And it's subtle, right? Because the pen is black. So I'm going in, I'm kind of like dancing around, and I'm adding in hatches, I'm adding in curves at the bottom of the pen. And I'm adding in slowly these little tiny cracks. So you see? So it's ever so subtle, but you go real light, you're going really thin, and I'm really defining the boundaries, adding in the details of the edge. And you may not see a black line there, but that kind of helps the reader understand from far away. And I'm purposely adding in jaggedy edges to kind of give the texture, the end of the sticker. So go up with light curves, really darken the boundary where your shadow is, and then ever so slightly go up with light curves. Okay, going up, curving. Okay, and notice now I'm going in with a darker pencil. And what am I doing? I'm really taking the time to darken that core shadow, right? So drawing is about layers. You can add layers in, and I'm really kind of making choices. So you could add hatches, but you could change your mind and be like, okay, I'm really going to darken this value, because sometimes you don't have the right value with the markers. It's just not there. And then you could make the choice to bring it up, right? You could go back and forth. So now I'm smoothing it up. I'm bringing it up a little. So drawing's about like pulling and pushing, going forward, going back. Okay, I'm kind of like curving the outside. Okay, curving the edges, making adjustments. So ask yourself, where can I bring down values? Where can I add values? Slowly pull away. I take time with making these YouTube videos because I really want you guys to feel like, okay, I don't like it. I'm going to go back. I'm going to try it again. And I want you to show in your sketchbook that you're trying things again. So I'm really going in, and now I'm darkening the edges of the AirPod, and I'm putting in those grays. The pod, kind of like I'm curving it. And I'm really defining those edges. So that's what I call a hard boundary. And that's why it's so nice to shade the background. Now I'm putting in little dots inside of the AirPod. And I'm showing where I see the speaker, where the speaker isn't. So putting in little dots. And I'm really, really like cleaning up those edges right there. Awesome. See the little bit of white that I'm getting? I'm going in and I'm taking that away, and I'm really smoothing out the edges. So this video comes at a great time because we have a lot of great drawings coming in. But the kids got to take time to really, if you would just take the time, go back to your drawings and clean up your edges. Go back to any drawing. Now I'm softening that boundary right there with that shadow. Really smoothing things out. Right? Because I had a dark, I had a light, now I'm having kind of a medium. And you can layer grays in on top of colors to bring down the values. So really like, see, look, I'm taking the point and I'm smoothing out that shadow. Because if the shadow is going to be smooth, the shadow is going to be smooth because the object is smooth, right? So really taking the time to go in to clean things up. And I'm making adjustments, right? So this is what's tricky. You guys will draw, and if you're using natural light, the space of the sun will shift. So I bet you the shadow's placement shifted a little. Zoom out, Rachel. Can't see what I'm doing. Oh, there I go. So I just put in a shadow, dark green, at the edge of that label. So again, that's why it comes in handy to kind of have different values, right? So if you start with a really light value, then you could go in and you can darken things up. Okay, I am adding black hatching on the core shadow, kind of bringing things down. Don't multitask when you work. Stop looking at your screens. Okay, I'm adding in details. I'm adding in the little dot right here. So this little dot, whatever it is, I think it's some kind of sensor. That's a hard boundary. So that's why you want to go in with the pen, because the pen gives you that contrast and it makes it very clear. Adding in detail, adding in shadows, adding in little dots. Going in with my pen. Carving things out. Now I'm pulling away. So I still have a lot of pencil on there. And I can make adjustments and I could pull things away. Adding in more lines, bringing things down. And yeah, I am noticing that I have the shape wrong. That's so interesting. Now, there's no wrong or right in art, but you could like be drawing and be like, wait, that looks off. Most students would give up. See, now I'm just shaving the side. So I'm making a change. Most students like, and I'm not like making a generalization, but students give up because they haven't been taught that the key to doing well at something, I haven't like a drawing, I haven't been taught that with a drawing. The key to doing really well at something is to just keep at it. And that kind of skill, the skill of keeping at it and keep working on something till it feels right to you, that is the key to success. So drawing, like, and anything you guys do, like essays, you know, reading, if you don't understand a page, go back and read it again. Keep at it. Add Post-its. Okay, so going in, cleaning up the edges of the side of that case. You can always pause, post a seesaw. I like this angle because you could see what I'm drawing. And I'm going in and I'm adding those hatches to show that this is curved. This object is curved. And it feels like a simple drawing, but it's also a complicated drawing. Okay, cleaning up, really defining the edges so the eye knows like this is the hard boundary. This is the end. Now notice how the ends are curved, right? So you're using that ellipses curve to kind of make it curve. So you want to have several pencils. Be ready to go. Okay, now I'm going in defining the hard boundary right here at the edge of the speaker. So that's what your pen is good for. And then I'm adding in dots. I'm not shading it. I'm adding in dots because that is an opportunity to show texture, to show stipples. Going in, adding a core shadow. Adding in a dark gray. So now this is interesting. That's a darker gray, right? And I'm being very delicate. I'm being very careful. Because what's tricky about Airpods is they're white. So you can't get too dark. But you could always do it again. So I'm dancing around the edge. Now I'm going in with the darker gray and I'm cleaning up that one shadow. Notice how I'm adding so many layers. Adding in a layer, making it dark. Okay, going in, hard boundary alert. So yeah, ever so slightly go in and slowly pull in with the AirPod and bring it down, adding in some hatching. Now you guys, once again, you can draw anything that's in your space. Okay, that is an important line I just made. They're all important, but I want to show that one AirPod is in front of the other. Yes? So I want to really define that relationship where I'm doing that one line on the outside. Okay, really, I'm going all over the place. And I'm sort of outlining it, but I'm not because the lines are sort of incomplete. Okay, hard boundary right there, getting that little black thing, adding in some hatching right there. 45 minutes to draw AirPods. It takes time. It'll probably take you longer. Maybe you'll do several. Going in, really cleaning up the edges. And you can make, so you guys picked up a really big poster at Supply Distribution. You could use that. That would be interesting. Like, try to do that for your still life. Reeling in, going in, defining the edges. Okay, so I went in and I put a black line at that curve. Now I'm adding a shadow. Now I'm adding a gray. So you have to think about values. Use black very carefully. Now I'm darkening that. So yeah, I would put your AirPods on kind of like a dark thing. And if you don't have AirPods, anything, like if it's white, anything that you're drawing, it should be 3D and you should put it on a colored mat. Going in, adding more hatching. Ask yourself, are you moving all over your drawing? Okay, adding in hatching. You can use hatching to add in shadow, to bring something down. So I'm taking away, I'm adding a layer. Taking away, adding a layer. Kind of going back and forth. Ah, that's a good angle. You can kind of see everything. See how much I'm moving around. I wish I would focus it. Am I going to focus it? Focus it. Yeah, I do. Okay, so I'm spending a lot of time on pen. Right? And I think that's great, because I think that's like, you could go back at any of your drawings today. Great thing to do on asynchronous days. Go back, be like, okay, how can I clean this up? How can I add pen? How can I really smooth out the edges? How can I make this better? Where can I add another layer? You can ask yourself, can I tell where the light is coming from? So go back and clean up different sorts of spaces. So here you can see a drawing that another drawing I was working on. Hopefully I'll have time to make a video of it. But it's a drawing that I wasn't very happy with. And I think it's because I didn't give myself very much space. But I wanted to draw beats too, to show students that they can draw beats. Like if you want to draw headphones, you could do those instead. And it's okay to not be happy about your drawings, as long as you're thinking, okay, what are my, like, what don't I like and what do I want to improve? So I'm really trying to clean up the background, as you guys can see. And it takes several drawings to like feel good at something. And if you really take the time to smooth out that marker, your drawing will look cleaner, right? With long kind of strokes. Okay, smoothing out the edges. Obviously, I like the Airpod drawing more than the Beats drawing. I've been giving it more love. And I had more space, right? That's why you guys picked up the bigger paper. So you can have like more space to explore as we draw 3D objects. Now the bigger paper is beige. That's why you have that whiteout. And I'll do another video about the still life. Okay, I think that's it on the AirPods. I'm just checking. Yeah, that's it. All right, guys. I hope this video was helpful. Feel free to go back and replay it and redo. It takes a long time to get good at drawing. Draw anything in your space that's 3D. Just ask yourself, where is that light coming from? How can I show shadow? And then start with your light values. Good luck, everyone.